before we get into the campaign itself, do you think Cooper has sway, CENTCOM commander has sway over Trump still?
Let me start by giving you a little history of surface warfare warriors. And I use that phrase guardedly because surface warfare warriors normally are not warriors. I taught them at the Naval War College. I taught them at the Marine Corps War College. The Navy has several classes of citizens. They are basically surface warfare people like Bradley Cooper, and they are Airedales, you know, people who fly airplanes off carriers, and they're submariners. And that's the order that I prioritize them. Submariners are squared away usually. They can be very dense and narrow, but they know their work and they know their job, and they never introduce their submarines into an environment not knowingly that they couldn't win in. The Airedales are pretty much dependent on the carriers and the tankers from the carriers, and so they have a reluctance to operate outside that environment, but when they're in that environment, tanked or otherwise, they're pretty deadly. Surface warriors are a curious bunch, especially the admirals. They really don't know war well at all. And since we haven't been in a naval surface war since World War II, really, they don't know it at all from experience. So the last person in my seminars I would trust to come up with a really good campaign plan or operational plan or any sort of opinion with regard to a conflict was a surface warfare officer. They just weren't competent to do it. Bradley Cooper is a perfect example of that. Now look at what he's doing. First of all, let me say that like his predecessor, the Marine, Guerrilla Marilla, he is locked into Israel. He is very much a product of the Israeli military machine and the way it grabs out certain officers, particularly flag officers, incorporates them in its body politic and indoctrinates them. So that's the first thing about him. The second thing about him is, as I said, he commands something he really doesn't understand, and that's those carriers out there. And let me just elongate that for a moment. The symbol of the American empire, most notable to the world today, most feared in the world today, especially by small countries like Syria and Afghanistan, and even though it was landlocked, and other countries like that with whom, many of whom we've been at war, I'm sad to say, the symbol of our might is that aircraft carrier. Ask yourself why even this surface warfare warrior has not brought a single aircraft carrier, the most powerful combat element he supposedly, the most powerful combat he commands, into harm's way. Not brought it any closer than 1,000 nautical miles from the coast of Iran. What does that say about the empire? Because the only way he could marshal a really effective naval warfare campaign, which is what we're talking about here, and make it focused on the Strait of Hormuz is to bring those carriers in close, where they can really be devastated. One carrier, 24 hours, two carriers, 72 hours, three carriers, indefinite air ops around the clock, as long as you can resupply them with ordnance and fuel. So he's got that. Why hasn't he brought it into play? He hasn't brought it into play because that symbol of the American empire, that incredible symbol to those people out in the world who've suffered from it or who know about suffering from it, would be sunk. It'd be sunk. The end of the empire in symbols would be high up on every newspaper in the world. American aircraft carrier with 5,000 souls on board sunk by the Iranians and a hypersonic missile or two. He's not going to do that. So until he's willing to generate that kind of combat power in that vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz, I don't take what he's saying seriously.